G'day viewers. Alright, I am at another battery shit show, but this is not in any way a blemish on these guys. These guys have been fantastic. So what we've got here is I'm at the back at Wanneroo in Wangara. We've got a large battery stack here, and this system was installed 2 years ago by a company that's no longer around. When the system was installed, it wasn't working correctly. The system was charging the batteries from the grid, and the app and all that wasn't reflecting correctly. Now, the client tried to get the people back a few times, but it's the same story. It's a company using subcontractors to do the installation, and once the installation was complete, they were not interested in coming back to try and sort the issue out. I believe he did get someone back a couple of times, but it was basically a case of them trying to convince him that the system is working correctly. As it turns out, all the issue was the CTs, the current transformers that measure the current flow into the property, were around the wrong way. A really simple fix and a common mistake, but if they took the time to have a look at the system and make sure it was working and doing everything it should, they would have picked up on that straight away. So 2 years on, the system has not worked, and the client ended up shutting the batteries down because they were charging from the grid and costing him money to charge, and then once they were charged they would discharge. But yeah, that was not the way it should be, because obviously it should charge from any surplus solar. So he actually shut the batteries down, and that was 2 years ago, and then he got in contact with me. I came out and had a look at it and got the system working correctly. I worked out that the CTs were around the wrong way, so it was doing everything in the opposite way it should. That was a relatively simple fix, but because the batteries had been shut down for 2 years, we had some issues there. I rang So Far Solar tech support, which were amazing and very hands-on, which actually surprised me because they are a smaller company, and I wasn't expecting that level of service, but it was very impressive. So thank you to those guys for their help. And what we worked out is we turned the batteries back on once the system was working correctly, but the batteries and the whole system kept shutting down. I borrowed some equipment from So Far Solar and measured the voltages on the batteries, and we worked out that 3 of the battery packs were faulty because it had been turned off for so long, 2 years. So that the batteries didn't like that, and we tried externally charging them with an external charger that we lent from So Far Solar, and it recovered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the batteries, but 3 of them we couldn't recover. So as you can see, we've got 3 new batteries in the stack now, and we've just turned the system back on, and it is working correctly and is fully charged. And the original company was AICA Energy, AICA Energy. Were they Perth based, were they? Yeah, so they were based in Perth and no longer around. In Bibra Lake, yeah. So they were no longer around, which left the client high and dry, and so that's where I got involved. So I've just turned the system back on. It's now working correctly. Everything's fine. Probably the only other issue we've got is the energy meter is installed at the house, and it should really have been installed down at the boundary. This is a rural property, and that would have been fine if there were no loads from the boundary switchboard, but there are. The bore is actually fed from the boundary, and so that's a lot of load that the energy meter is missing. So unfortunately, the representation of the energy use for the property in the app is not actually accurate, and neither are the batteries discharging when that load is being used, because the energy meter is downstream of it and it can't see it. That's always a problem when there's a big gap between the energy meter and the battery system. quite often you need to use wireless networks and so forth, which can be a little bit hit and miss with Wi-Fi dropouts and so forth. But all is up and running now. Thank you to So Far Solar for their help with the mass store batteries. They could have easily wiggled out of the warranty on that one because the system had been shut down for 2 years, which obviously discharged the batteries way below where they should have been discharged. But all's well that ends well. But again, as I've said in the past, never part with your final payment until you are confident the system is up and running and doing everything it should.